It is important that today we had the countries of the European Union, and not only Europe, that is, we also had Australia, New Zealand. We have different leaders, a new Prime Minister of Canada. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Canadians and the Prime Minister. And today, we made a lot of different statements. We discussed a lot of topics. It is important that this summit in support of Ukraine is becoming almost weekly. I think there will be another one of our meetings in a week. And in this format, in an online format, these summits have also taken place in various formats. We have received support and strong sanctions pressure on Russia. Everyone understands that Ukraine needs help now more than ever. Everyone congratulated Ukraine on its real victory in Jeddah, a victory in diplomacy. Everyone believes that this is serious progress and will work out. Now Russia will be difficult. It must demonstrate that it supports ending the war or it wants to continue the war. Everyone is expecting this. On their part, everyone will be sending signals to the United States. I want to thank the American delegation. And I really believe that President Trump's conversation with his delegation was a good one. I have contacts with my delegation. We really succeeded at the meeting, and we will continue the meetings in Saudi Arabia. This needs to be continued. Everyone agrees with Ukraine's position, and this position is already clear. If we are talking about ceasefire, and Ukraine has taken such a step, it must be unconditional. Ceasefire, 30 days, or whatever the American country proposed. 30 days, we support it in order to prepare a plan of action that will lead to a sustainable, for a just peace. And this is now on the side, I believe, of Russia and America. Let's hope that the President and the American side will put pressure on Russia. I think it's important to understand everything. Everyone is interested in what our situation is on the battlefield. And everyone, thank God, has not only conversations, but they also have their own intelligence, long-range intelligence. I am grateful that our intelligence data coincided today, and we said that the Ukrainian side has a presence in the Kursk region, that the encirclement of Ukrainian military personnel is Putin's lie, that the encirclement of Ukrainian military personnel in the Kursk region, there is no encirclement in the Kursk region. And as for the signals that came from the Russian side, I shared this, and I'm sharing it with you. This is not a signal. I believe that the Russian side actually wants to encircle the Ukrainian troops in the same direction, but on Ukrainian territory. Yes, it's important that our troops know this. The command knows, we understand it clearly. Where do they want to do this? They clearly want to maximize their presence on Ukrainian territory. And there's nothing new about this. Again, I don't want to argue with any partners or colleagues. They have intelligence, they have satellites. Let them take a look at where the concentration of Russian troops is today and where they are headed. This is a very important point. Then it will become clear what it's for. So there's nothing about peace in these steps. There is nothing about peace, and there is nothing about peace. I would like to go on. This is a little bit off topic. And I am very grateful to the European Union, President Costa, President von der Leyen. Serious decisions will be made soon, and the 150 billion that are intended to strengthen Europe's defense capabilities will give Ukraine an equal approach to this, equal opportunities. This is a very serious step. And And I really hope that this signal will be taken seriously soon. I am grateful to the European Union for this. And next, we discussed that our partners also raised the issue that there's a group that has already understood and positively assessed the American group regarding the negotiation process that took place in Saudi Arabia. The Ukrainian group was also highly appreciated. Regarding the negotiation process, which also took place in Saudi Arabia, the Europeans think that we need to form our own negotiation group. I think that we'll also come together soon. On my part, I will sign a decree about this group today and officially appoint 4 members of the Ukrainian group. Next, our partners raised the issue regarding the plan. We need to put the security guarantee plans on paper. And also, especially the German side and the Turkish side mentioned that a reconstruction plan is needed. I believe this is a good signal. This suggests that everyone believes that war, it can be finished. And there are all chances. We just need to be strong, decisive, and put pressure on Russia. Regarding the sanctions policy, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries will continue and strengthen their sanctions policy. I want to thank Norway for the decisions regarding artillery, air defense, and drones, including or primarily those produced in Ukraine. The Czech Republic is very important. An important outcome regarding the Czech initiative. I won't say which package. A serious package funded and signed regarding the initiative for supplying 155mm artillery to Ukraine. Initiatives regarding the supply of 155mm artillery on Ukraine. Here, thank God we have a very good result.
In short, dear colleagues, your questions, please use the microphone over there so everyone can hear.
Let's start with the BBC. Good afternoon. John Blandell, BBC. After this morning's meeting, well, eat up. I'm waiting.
Thank you very much. First of all, everyone hopes that the positive outcome from the last meeting between Ukraine and the USA will continue, which will lead to a meeting involving Ukraine, America, allies, and Europeans. Europeans also have their parallel consultations with the American administration. Everyone expects that security guarantees will be provided by our allies. Security guarantees for Ukraine from Europe, from the United States, and others, willing other countries that want to help us. And everyone is counting on what one or another format of the continent could be. Some are skeptical about the continent, believing that NATO or the Fifth Amendment is stronger. Here I can say that we understand that the decision regarding NATO and any other format should depend on NATO allies or on any allies, but certainly not on NATO's wishes. Russia, from their vision, especially from Russia's veto on NATO, because they have no legal force here, I believe, and they should not be given a pass to have such an opportunity, in my opinion. In any case, everyone is counting on allied security guarantees. As for weapons, it's not about reducing the Ukrainian army. It's about strengthening the Ukrainian military as a guarantor of security for Ukraine today and in the future, as a guarantor of security for the European continent. So everyone is interested in a strong, unyielding army. Those partners we are communicating with, right? And we see this as a signal. I believe this is a positive signal. Regarding maintaining such an army and strengthening it, everyone understands that this is our collective responsibility, and that Ukraine won't be able to do this on its own because it's a serious financial burden. Secondly, besides the army, everyone understands that we need to strengthen ourselves by adopting Ukrainian technologies. And investing money in our productions, but also after the war, opening relevant productions with our own technologies, or together with the technologies of our partners, to establish such productions in the territories of other allied states. Everyone understands that with today's pace, we can strengthen Ukraine and Europe in 5 years. We believe that this is taking too long and that it's dangerous. We showed that in times of war. It can be faster. Partners agree with us that this can be done in 3 years. But everyone needs to move very strongly. That's right. We need to strengthen ourselves and significantly increase production in all the countries of the Union to make the security guarantee a reality for all of Europe.
Please, we see statements from Russia indicating that they are trying to drag out the process and not agree to the 30-day ceasefire that was negotiated in James. A more stylish position, I'm sure, before the joy.
Right now they look like if, at the very least, it's not serious. After the proposal and after they didn't expect an allied solution to be found in Jeddah, they realize they need to respond, and now they'll be talking about control and other things. Of course, I've already said this, that if they only talked about the silence at sea, they would say, but why only at sea? If there is silence, then everywhere. If we were talking about the sea and the sky, they would say in the sky. They only count on the security of their energy system. That is, we were reducing all these opportunities for energy. Just the eloquence of Putin and his entourage, who really don't want the war to end. That is, I believe that today this corridor has been narrowed, and we are ready for an unconditional ceasefire for 30 days, which was proposed by the American side. And so, if the Russians disagree, it means they disagree not with our proposal, but specifically with President Trump's proposal. Because all our developments were ultimately formulated by the Americans. And this is their clear position. And they, the team that was sent to Saudi Arabia, are representatives of President Trump's position. And that's why Putin doesn't agree today, to what Trump proposed to Ukraine and Russia. And I believe this is just finding a position to avoid moving towards the end of the war. Today, it's important to note that several partners, honestly many, said that when it comes to the ceasefire, the most important thing for us, for America, and for anyone is not to give in to Russia's butt. The ceasefire should not come with a but. Ceasefire should not come with a but. Because it's a ceasefire for 30 days. This is not eternity. It's silence, and it's 30 days where all parties are given the opportunity to demonstrate their speed and willingness to end the war. Or the other way around.
Trump noted that on March 17th there will be a clear response from the Russians regarding the ceasefire, and on March 17th he will announce past events. Should we tie ourselves to this date? Your negotiations, referring to the Ukraine-Shan track, and the negotiating group also announced that discussions could start as early as next week.
Monitoring can be coordinated. I'm sure that the Americans, along with their European partners and our forces, can make this happen. I think the delay in the process is exactly because of what I said. They want to improve the situation for themselves on the battlefield. Another story, on the 17th, if I were to tie it to something, I would pay attention to, I don't know when the conversation will be, but I would focus on the 17th, on March 17th of last year. What happened on March 17th last year? What happened on March 17th of last year? Interesting. I would pay attention, if I'm not mistaken, to the International Criminal Court. What did he do on March 17th of last year? So I would pay attention to this, in your opinion. What date is that? Well, I would pay attention to that, to yours. So I think that there is probably a possibility of some talks between the US and Russia specifically on Monday, probably. I don't know for sure.
What on travel dialogue accounting?
The groups, we agreed on how we see this. The group, as I understand it, has a representative from the United States who met with the Russians, and I think they talked about something, coordinated some positions, and we'll see. Let's see what happens next. I think in the coming days, we will have coordination with the US regarding the next steps. We are really looking forward to it, and if the Russians, do not agree with President Trump's proposal, and we strongly believe that President Trump's position will be clear, tough, and direct regarding Putin.
We don't really know much about Steve Witkoff's meeting with Putin. It is only known that Putin kept him for 8 hours before accepting him. Is the Ukrainian government aware of any part of the negotiations between the Americans and the Russians? And what are the red lines for Ukraine regarding the future potential ceasefire?
We would like to focus on how we agreed on this. We constantly advise all partners not to change the agreements. And we would like to stand by the agreement as well. We had to show that we want peace, while the Russians want war. I believe that everything was demonstrated in one meeting. It was constructive, positive, and once again, I thank both the Americans and the Ukrainians for this meeting. Yes, the second story, what happened in Moscow, I understand. And what may be known, we cannot know 100% what these people were talking about. But we understand that there will be many different buts that could put Ukraine in a weaker situation. And here, America's position is very important. Now, if this is a full ceasefire, then without any buts. Conditions, with no conditions, without any condition. Without this condition, any condition. Everyone's position should be clear, transparent, truthful, without losing the dignity of the parties. In my opinion, and the fact that people are discussing various issues, not just Ukraine, is a question for the people, their societies, and their leaders. This is definitely not about us. We are talking about the first step in the format in which it is being discussed. That's it.
The President, the American delegation, and Mr. Trump would like to hear the details from you. What were we talking about? Our American delegation, which territory are we talking about? I don't know.
Yesterday, I had a coffee break with journalists, and I basically talked about this. I wouldn't want to go into too much detail or repeat myself. I understand that this is important. Our position is that we do not recognize the occupied territories as Ukrainian or Russian. We don't. In any case, I understand. I say this right away, that this is a sensitive issue. I immediately, understanding our position, realize that this is exactly what the Russians need. Wherever stubborn Ukrainians, that's where we'll fight. Yes, in different formats, in different conversations, including talks with the United States of America. The United States raised this issue at the G7 meeting, that they received the basic Ukrainian position. Basically what I've already said. They just explained that as well. There are some details that are hard to explain just with words. Pointing to the map, as I mentioned yesterday with the example of journalists, when, for instance, a living place is not separate but divided, right? The right bank, the left bank, for example, of the Dnipro. And a city can't live on one bank while the enemy is on the other, you understand, right? So, it's impossible. This is not a living place, and that means the city is occupied, one way or another. And these things need to be detailed for our partners. They know these things, if they even do, but without such details. We need to talk about this. Then people understand how to bring life back, not just on paper. Paper life, and it's real life. People should live, to have opportunities, to have a safe city, and to have your city completely. And that's why there can't be a frozen conflict. There can't be a frozen conflict in cities, in villages. Do you understand what I mean? And that's why some of these issues come up. Water supply. Yesterday, I gave an example to the journalists regarding, for instance, our nuclear power plant. Yes, the nuclear power plant, but how will it operate? But is water needed? There's no water there. You remember they blew up the dam and so on. So there are a lot of questions. It's not just a power plant. And it's not just that the Ukrainian authorities received the plant. So what's nearby? And where is the city where these people who work are? They need to live. Where is their city? How can it be under Russia's control? And where is that water? Who will manage this process? A lot of complicated things. So I want to emphasize again that the issue of territories is connected. It's very difficult with the first step. I wouldn't recommend it because it just prolongs the process. Procrastination is a long, long way off because the issue of territories is a complex issue. It should be resolved later at the table of victory. Red lines should be announced immediately. And if the American and Russian sides are discussing these topics, then let them talk. To be honest, it's their right to talk about whatever they want.
Putin is already setting additional conditions. We've all heard it. The American side is imposing some additional territorial conditions on us.
No. At the meeting in Saudi Arabia, there were no additional conditions. It's because everyone was really, truly, humanly happy that, first of all, we were together. The two countries were together. I believe this is a serious step forward. Secondly, Ukraine took such a serious diplomatic step, a very serious one. And everyone was really happy. But I don't want to be, that old lady who keeps saying the same thing over and over, but Putin doesn't want to. Let America now force Putin to take the first step. Then we will discuss all the other steps. And then we remember all the other steps.
My thanks to Italy, my thanks to France. It really depended on these two countries. We are grateful to them because they provided what they have in their arsenal.
Here are the missiles on the site. Well, let's say there have never been these systems. We are grateful to Italy. We are grateful to France, and it really depended on these two countries. We are grateful because they provided what they have in their arsenal. We are grateful because they provided what they have in their arsenal. Everything. They had it there. And these are complex systems. They're good. You can't say they're a direct equivalent to Patriot because they're good. They do shoot down targets, but not everything. Not everything that Patriot shoots down. That's true, right? But we are grateful for these systems. I don't want to say which regions, but they have helped and continue to help. There's one problem with this system, or with these systems. There's a huge shortage of missiles, and it was constant. I don't want to say how many of these missiles we have, what the situation is with them. It's a constant problem. Constant, but I don't want Italy or France to be offended because they provided us with these systems and gave us missiles. There are types of weapons, I'll tell you, that the war has taught us. It taught a lot there. One of the points where you can get a license from a partner, take it, we'll do it faster. I didn't get those licenses I really wanted to. This was very important to me. Patriot, SAMP-T, IOC. Although IOC, many countries have even already given us systems because they're not armed. They are not new, but they are working. In some of our cities where there was something particularly related to energy, working systems, we took them because we understood where we could find missiles. Hawks, missiles, there are many around the world. They are scattered everywhere. For example, the Patriots, that's a complexity, a big complexity. And the replacement for the male could be the Patriots because they are approximately the same class. This is the story with the PPU and the license. As soon as countries can issue a license, and it is also difficult for them because, for example, the PTI itself, here you go, it is not easy, for example, the correct example with Germany, with the ARIST system. We can negotiate with them because they fully manage these systems. And then we can negotiate and count on a constant monthly supply from ARIST. So our military can clearly calculate how many missiles they have in the ARIST. They don't necessarily have to be in storage in warehouses. No, they just have a constant. The number of these missiles on a monthly basis. With systems where there are 2 or 3 manufacturers, there are systems that depend on 4 countries. From 4 countries and their political will to grant us a license. We are gradually developing this direction.